gibt es das Interview mit Kevin James, den Mantrasinger. Ich freue mich wahnsinnig, es euch präsentieren zu können. Schaut auf jeden Fall rein, beziehungsweise hört hinein, weil es ist nämlich nur eine Audiodatei und als Hintergrund habt ihr den wunderschönen Sonnenaufgang bei Branaveda oben im Norden von Bali. Genießt auf jeden Fall dieses Interview. Ich habe es total genossen und ich war so aufgeregt gewesen. Deswegen habe ich mich auch ein paar Mal versprochen auf Englisch. Aber dafür kann man Kevin umso besser verstehen. Und es ist ein ganz tolles Herzensinterview geworden, was er mit seiner Musik bezwecken möchte, wie er gerade das Weltgeschehen sieht und wie man mehr sich mit sich selber connecten kann und auch seine Journey, wie er dieser krasse Kirtanist wurde, der er jetzt gerade ist, beziehungsweise Musiker ist. Er nennt sich nämlich gar nicht Kirtanist. Warum er sich nicht Kirtanist nennt, das erfährst du auch im Interview. Viel Spaß damit! Hallo ihr Lieben, ich freue mich, dass ich heute wieder ein spannendes Interview für euch habe. Diesmal mit dem Kirtanisten, mit dem Mantrasänger Kevin James. Vielleicht kennt ihn der ein oder andere von euch. Kevin, I'm so grateful and so happy that I can do an interview with you here in beautiful Bali. Thanks for inviting me to this beautiful place. We are in a resort at the ocean, so maybe you all hear the ocean voice, ocean sound in the background. And yeah, if you don't know Kevin, or for all of the people who don't know who's Kevin, who would you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words to describe Kevin James. Myself or my music?
Yourself.
Myself. I'll use 3 words that I get from other people.
Okay.
Calm, relaxed, and for me, I'd like to see myself as easygoing. Yeah.
That's actually the Australian qualities as well, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. It would be nice to believe that. Yeah.
And your music, how would you describe your music in more words, if you like?
Well, from my perspective, my music is an expression of all of the things that I've believed that are important, or the things that I value as important for me, but also that I feel are valuable for us as a community, that we want to either affirm or in some ways like remember or even program ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we tend to run on a mental level. We tend to run on a program, that is made up of our beliefs and our different points of view, and I think when we accept that, sometimes in order for us to change the way we view the world or our worldview, we need to give ourselves a new program, and or perhaps even an old program that we've forgotten.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it as well. But yeah, I think my music is all the different elements that I've come to value in life, and also combined with what I feel that we as a community might want to share in a group. That's the group singing side of it. And then as a songwriter, as a singer-songwriter, I also write songs and share what I call Heartsongs, that are more of a expression of my ideals or my aspirations or affirmations. I've always used music as a kind of a tool for me to aspire and reaffirm things that I've learned or things that I value or things that I think are important. That maybe also to recondition myself, because I grew up in Australia with only two religious choices, Catholic or Christian, and I didn't relate to both of them, and I wasn't exposed to anything else. It wasn't until I turned 21 and I had this kind of vision that there was more out there in the world and that I needed to go and discover for myself. And that's when I first got exposed to yoga and Buddhism and Hinduism and
Can we go back to this point when you were 21 and you decided to go to see the world? Because I'm always interested in these points in life. I know there's a lot of points that are actually accumulate to this one point where we think, okay, I want to see more, I want to experience more. I internally know that there's actually more of me that wants to be experienced. Why did you choose this path? Because you could have been like a normal Australian dude, I don't know, working in Sydney in a bank, or like working in the outback in a farm. Why did you choose this path?
I had a childhood vision of traveling the world, and I grew up in probably the most beautiful town in Australia, small town called Norden, a little fishing village. And my father was really quite highly respected in that town, so I was under his protection. And then I had four older brothers and three older nephews. So and they were also quite respected in town, and like the top footballers, and they were big, strong guys. So I was completely protected, even to the point where if the police pulled me over and saw who I was, they would apologize.
Wow.
And say, "Look, sorry, we didn't realize it was you. Off you go.
Yeah.
By the way, don't cross the white lines, or you were speeding, Just thought I'd let you know." I could walk into any shop and just say, "I'll pay you later." I grew up in a really sheltered environment, and I kind of felt like I knew that there was more, and I knew that people were suffering in the world, and I knew that there was poverty, and I just needed to go and explore it to find out for myself. I had an adventurous spirit. So I took my guitar, and I'd only just started learning guitar. I took it with me, and off I went.
And why did you choose the guitar? There's so many instruments. Why the guitar?
I grew up, whenever I saw somebody playing guitar, I just knew that I could do that. Actually, I grew up knowing my future, which is very strange.
Wow.
And I have vague memories of being very young, and knowing my future was normal for me because I didn't know anything else. And then it wasn't until I learned that we don't know our future that I thought that I was actually doing the wrong thing, and I remember kind of losing the connection with it. But I sort of, in some kind of picture form, knew my life ahead of me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so even though we only had like a really old crappy guitar in our house with one string, and my brother taught me a song on that, one stringed guitar.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really inspired by that, and it was in a non-musical family. So
no musicians.
No musicians, and not even really allowed to play music because my father, he was very very dominating, and so if we put on any kind of modern music, he would say, turn that off and put on the news or the classical music, which I didn't like. So it wasn't until I turned 21, I had left home, and it was actually my 21st birthday party, and there was 300 people there, and we were just doing the normal 21st birthday, get drunk, all your friends. And I walked out of my room to the living room, which was packed full of people, and literally the crowd parted like the sea parted, for Moses or for Jesus or something. And there on the opposite side of the room stood this beautiful guy with this really long hair and these big bright eyes and dark skin. And he walked towards me, and I walked past him, and I was like, wow, who was that? And then a little bit later, I was back in my room, and somebody came in and said, there's a guy here, a friend of mine, who wants to bring you, play you a song for your birthday present. And so he came into the room, sitting on the bed, and he kneeled down on the floor in front of me and started playing this song.
Wow.
With the guitar. And it was the first time I'd heard the guitar played live in front of me. Wow. And my jaw just dropped. And it was a Rolling Stones song that I loved. I loved the Rolling Stones. So it was like a really cool song. And after he finished, I just said, I have to do that. I have to do that.
Yes.
And he said, you can. And I said, what do I do? He said, you buy a guitar. So I said, how much do I need to spend? What kind of guitar? I just asked him every question. He gave me all the answers, and I went off and did everything he said.
Wow.
And I bought my first guitar. I still have that guitar.
Really?
Yeah. And I started playing it. I saved the money, I bought the guitar, I started playing it, and I didn't stop. And to the point where the people that I was sharing the house with said, Kevin, we're really sorry, but, I come home from work, I want a bit of peace, and you're playing this thing, it's not really that great, So what I did was I got in my car and I drove out into the bush, and I played there in the back of my car. And about 6 months later, I was in there in the back of my car playing, and a bushwalker came walking past, and he stopped, and when he stopped, I stopped, and he said, why did you stop playing? And I said, well, I didn't think you'd enjoy it. He said, why do you think I wouldn't enjoy it? And I said, well, it's because, the people I live with, they told me that I sound crap, and that's why I'm playing out. So he said to me, how long ago did they tell you that? And I said, about 6 months ago. And he said, well, I think, you need to start sharing with people, because this sounds really good. And so, within 12 months of them kicking me out of the house, they were paying money to come and hear me play at the local hotel. And
so you were gifted.
Well, I was determined.
I'm always wondering about people who get famous or very good in something. Is it something that you are gifted but you are determined, like you had this passion in you and you really put in the effort, you played, you practiced, but also you had this gift, this vision in yourself?
I think it's probably different for everybody, but for me, I don't even remember determination. It was just a love, I found salvation in it. I found beauty.
Okay.
I was able to create beauty.
Wow.
And maybe even some destiny. Because I was always singing before that, even as a child.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Wow.
loved singing.
And then you start like doing like small gigs, and the people came and they paid.
Yeah.
But did you start it with mantra music? Was it like Asatoma on the first
No.
stage?
No, it wasn't. I started playing with that guy,
Okay.
the guy who was at my party,
Mm-hmm.
and he was influenced by jazz,
Mm-hmm.
so he taught me jazz and funk,
Okay.
and I was really into folk music, so I was into the Beatles and Neil Young and James Taylor and Cat Stevens and various Bob Dylan, and people my age would know those artists really well. They were the popular artists at that time.
I thought that was the pop music in this time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was when, only when the disco and all that sort of stuff was happening, but still all that folk music was very present, and that's what I was drawn to. And that's what I really loved, because they were singing with emotion and feeling, and there was meaning in their songs.
Yeah.
So the pop music didn't really appeal to me. I had no desire to the disco kind of trendy music at that time. And so that's what I was into. And then I started writing my own songs, and I tended towards kind of more deeper feeling songs, but it wasn't until I went to India and discovered mantras that I was introduced to that. But I still, even though I discovered it there, I never went to I never saw people chanting together on that journey, but I just had a mantra that was taught to me.
Which one was it?
It's a Shiva mantra, Jai Shiva Shankara He Maheshwara. And I had one experience where, because I knew that mantra, I was on a train, and there was a really busy train, and I was the only tourist on this train in India, and there was some kind of like wizardy character that came on the train and sat next to me and started making fun of me. Right, he was kind of like speaking in Hindi, pointing at me, making jokes. Everybody laughed, and I was taking it. I was okay, but I could tell he was humiliating me right in front of everybody, and he drew a crowd, and then he looked up and said, "Oh, what's that up there?" And, he didn't speak English, but he pointed the guitar, and so I just thought, I'll show them, So I got the guitar out, and I thought, well, I'll play this song that I know.
Yeah.
So I say, Jai Shiva Shankara He Maheshwara, and they all knew it. So the next thing you know, they started singing with me, as they do in India. And then people started rushing in, and the whole place was just packed, and everyone's singing with me, Jai Shiva Shankar, Sukhahara Dukkahara. And then all of a sudden, I got all the attention in here. And I kind of went, yes. So then I got respected after that. That was good. So that was a really good example of the power of mantra. But I never really did much with that mantra, but then years later, after I went back to Australia, and I had planned to go back to India, but my girlfriend at the time got pregnant, and so we had a child, so I decided I needed to raise the child, so I stayed together with her, and I stayed in Australia, and then mantras came to me. First in the form of a cassette tape that somebody had made in an ashram, and they gave it to me, and they said, you should listen to this. Your songs are kind of remind me of this feeling.
Wow. So
I was starting to write songs, like songs about spirit and about the land, and deeper songs. So then I started listening to this tape all the time. I couldn't stop listening to it. and I think that also had a big influence on me and my music. But it wasn't until the year 2000 I was at a big gathering of people called a rainbow gathering.
I know.
And
in Australia?
Yeah,
or?
International Rainbow Gathering, 2,000 people in Australia.
Wow.
So I went to that, and it wasn't till I was there that there was a whole lot of music happening. It was a full moon gathering, and there was all these artists playing everywhere. And then I was there with my family and friends, and then I heard something just like calling me through all the sounds. There was something just like a little thread that was touching my ear, and I followed it. It was like beautiful. What is that? You know, and I'm walking through the crowd, and then I come to this circle of people, about 20 people sitting, singing the Gayatri mantra, and I literally knelt down behind them and I knew this song, and this is the music I've been looking for.
Wow.
Because prior to that, or before that, I had started a music career twice. So the first time with that jazz musician, and then our music started to take off, and we started to get bigger gigs beyond the hometown. We got invited to Melbourne, and I took off overseas on my adventure. And then when I came back, I started doing restaurants and pubs, playing music, and I just didn't like the scene. I didn't like people talking and drinking and being in those environments. So I just kept saying, I can't relate to this. There's something more that I have to share with music, but I don't know what it is. But then in the year 2000, I just recognized this is it. This is what I've been looking for. And I never saw it as a career. I saw it as like, this is the kind of music I want to play. This is my song.
Wow. And then...
because it's beautiful.
Yeah. And then it started because you told me when I met you the first time at this kirtan in Ubud that you were like in this hippie communities. Did it start then in the year 2000 that you started to go into this hippie community? And
yeah, I was already living in that hippie community, and I took it back there. I took the mantras back there. We were also living very alternative, and part of that meant that we weren't into any drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or ganja or anything like that. Even cooked food, we were eating raw food.
Oh wow!
And so we couldn't really go out and have a good time because there was always drunks and cigarette smoking and processed food and things. So we would go out and try and have a social life, but we'd come home going, oh, that was terrible. So we decided we needed to create our own gatherings, and people come to us, and they come to our gathering on the condition that they don't bring that stuff, and they do something different. And it became a novelty for some people to, well, I don't mind eating raw food and having a drug-free, beautiful evening up there with those hippies, because it's only one experience for them. And then there were other people who were like, this is really beautiful, I want to live like this, and started to join us and live with us. And yeah, that was our way of connecting.
Wow.
So singing about things that we aspired to, singing about things that would made us feel more connected and conscious, rather than just singing other songs about stories that relate to pain and love stories and attachment and those things. We wanted to sing about things that were healthy for us.
And when did you start to make these kirtans, the kirtan that I experienced in Ubud?
Well, it started there.
It started there
Because the Rainbow Gathering gave me the philosophy of the circle that came from the American Indians.
Okay.
Mainly they used the circle for the talking. the talking circle. But also when you're in a teepee, everybody sits in a circle as well.
Yeah.
And there's usually a fire in the center. So we started to create an altar in the center. And sitting in a circle was good because, we can all hear and see each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a performance, we were handing the guitar around.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But then over time, as that developed and got bigger, and I was playing a lot and writing songs a lot, some of my friends started to say to me, Kevin, I take a night of my week out to come and sing in these circles because I want to hear your songs. Actually, I don't want to hear Joe's songs. I want to hear your songs. And I kind of felt humiliated to say, well, I don't want to dominate the evening. That this is about us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then, when enough of my friends asked for that, I said, well, we could create a circle that is just me then, that we call it a Kevin James circle, and we can we can come to your house and just do that. And so then that started happening, and then more people came to that.
Okay.
And so that's how,
wow.
Partly because of that, and also at the same time I was doing that, I started a band. And I brought my kind of jazz influence and folk influence and mantra influence into these dancey songs with a band called the Optimistics.
Okay.
And in 1 year, we just the red carpet just took us. We were really flying.
Wow.
And it came time to make an album, and I couldn't do it. And it was much to disappointment of some of the band members. Others were okay with it, but it was still, everybody was a bit disappointed that we kind of reached a point of stop because of me.
But why? Why did you say stop?
I couldn't explain why.
Okay.
But the only explanation I could give was, if I'm true to what I'm singing about, which is to follow your heart and to be true to your feelings, I'm not getting the feeling to continue with this, and I'm disappointed as well in some ways because I think the band was really fun, and we all got along, and it was great, but I had to be true to that. So I was true to it.
What is fascinating me about your story, what you shared, is that you really had a good intuition about which path you want to go, and what is the right thing for you to do, what is not feeling good for you. It's really, for me, it's really impressive, because I sometimes have an issue with that, to decide, okay, which path is the right one, where to go, what does my heart say. Do you have an advice or tip for somebody like me, or for the listeners who will say wow, that sounds so good, somebody who's so clear in what feels right and what doesn't feel right?
I think being honest with your feelings. I had the choice to keep my band members happy, regardless of what I was feeling, or to be true to my feeling, even to the point where I was letting down good friends.
And that's an issue for, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. They were very disappointed, and even one of the band members really hated me. It was like a breakup.
Okay.
Having said that, and looking in the rear view mirror, what happened was that the people who were following our band, I all the time was still doing these chanting circles.
Okay.
And it was a hobby. I didn't even ask for anything. We put our money together to pay for the space sometimes if we needed, or it was at people's houses.
Okay.
But then what happened was the people who were coming to the band heard about the chanting circles and came there, and they started requesting my songs,
Okay.
my dancey songs,
Mm.
and my.
Ah.
So it wasn't. So then it broke away from the traditional mantras and rainbow songs into something even more, and it was. I was doing it on my own, and just whoever was there that was supporting it, a guitarist, a drummer, and so actually that was the birth of the chanting circle.
Okay.
And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me as a musician, because to be sort of on this path of having a band with 6 musicians or whatever is a completely different path than being independent and being able to fly around the world like I have, just with one airfare, and be able to sleep on people's couches and stuff like that, rather than have a whole band. You could imagine. And being at festivals, and that sort of I was in people's living rooms going around Europe. The whole way my music spread through Europe was me just going around with my guitar, and you would invite me, and then the next person would invite me, and I had no plan. It was just, and then someone said, come to this festival, we'd get you in last minute, and then there were people there like, we want you at our festival, and then it just only by invitation. I've never asked.
Okay.
I never asked, can I be there or can I go there?
Wow. And
so
you're well known in the German yoga scene. You're well known. It was like I wrote like, oh, I can interview Kevin James. I'm so excited. And there was like 15 people like writing, oh, Kevin James, yeah, you will love him. He's such a beautiful soul. Oh yeah, I hosted him like da 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 da. And everybody wrote so nice things about you. And it was really like
probably
everybody.
because they're friends.
Yes, could be.
And that's the foundation of this music for me. It hasn't grown fast. I've been doing this a long time because I haven't been pushing. I haven't needed to push. I've been taken care of.
Wow.
And I mean, admittedly, I only have a suitcase and a guitar, and still do. But I letting go of having material possessions wasn't difficult because I inherited the world.
Wow. And where do you take your trust in this you are taken care of? How do you know?
There's knowledge that we can acquire from experience and retain it. But there's another knowing that doesn't really get recognized in our society, in Western society. And it is not separate from knowing yourself. And the more you get to know yourself, the more you get to have a connection with a different kind of knowing that is something that you can't explain, and you can't really validate it as real, but it shows you through time and time again through experience to have faith in it.
Okay.
And it's where your trust, just like you tell your hand to move and you trust that it's going to move, and you trust that your body is healing itself and digesting the meal. You can feel that your body's in service to you. Well, when you start to extend that identity out, and then you can extend that same kind of love and connection that you have with your own body to the world, that's a kind of a knowing, like there's a sense of security in there. If I have something wrong with my body, it tells me. If there's something wrong in my environment, it tells me the same way. And I know that my body cares for me. I know that my body, my heart, wants to keep beating. I have natural mechanisms in place to, if you cut the skin, it heals itself. I had that same knowing goes out into the world when I start to dissolve the illusions that I've created that I'm separate to what is, and start to kind of immerse myself in the environment. And a part to do with that is by letting go of what I'm hanging on to. Like, for example, I hang on to my possessions, my house and my car and then my kind of like, what you would say, my titles, or my identity, my name and my reputation and those things. You're, in a way, you're building a kind of an isolation for yourself that you think is big, but it's actually limiting. And when you let go of those things and start to dissolve your sense of self into the whole, you start to then those same qualities that you had for your own self-image of like, I love myself, I care about myself, I want things for myself. They're still there, but they're extended. So I want things for myself in you as in me. It's not different, it's the same self, but it's extended out. It's not just in a box, in a small idea of itself. It's broader, and that's what we call good, because it extends into caring for the fishes and the birds and the whole thing, rather than just the part.
Do you have any advice how to care much about our environment, to really like expand ourselves and see us as connected with everything?
Well, that, in a way, what I was just saying, I could just reiterate, because when we care for ourselves, and only for ourselves, we call that selfish, and in a way it's kind of dysfunctional, because we don't care for others, and other people can suffer, and sometimes I could accumulate more than I need, and there are people who need that, and if I don't share with them, we call that kind of bad, right? It's not harmonious, it's not so functional for us to be like that.
Yes.
But when we let go of that identity, then that same quality of wanting to care for myself, my sense of self goes out.
Okay. And it wants to care for everyone.
Naturally.
Yeah.
The same. It's the same. It's not a different self. It's just an unlimited self. So how do I care for the environment? How do I care for others genuinely? By letting go of the small I, and just giving yourself the opportunity, give yourself the chance to what if I was more? What if I was the universe? I mean, it might sound far-fetched, but in reality, if we look closely enough, I'm receiving the entire universe, or my experience of the universe, through 5 senses, right? We can see that very clearly. There's the sight, the sound, the taste, the feel, the smell. I receive it as information. I then transform within my own consciousness a mental, and not only a mental image, but a conscious image of that universe. So where does the universe exist? Inside of me. It's all of it. Not just the what we call is under this skin and my so-called voluntary action. I think that I'm voluntarily speaking. I think that I'm voluntarily moving my hand, but I'm not sure if I'm doing that. And now science has shown me that when we choose something, the mind, the controlling mind comes in after the action.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of science that doesn't make it to the mainstream because they don't. Then it's not that they don't want us to know in a bad way. It's just that it upsets the narrative that people have built their lives on, and that people who've just gone to university their whole life and studied a particular way, and when there's something that conflicts that, or that sort of makes their education obsolete or their job obsolete. So, but there's been enough testing to prove that the mind is after the choice.
So who is doing the choices then?
That's the question. The answer is in the question.
Okay.
And it's not the normal way of thinking is to know something by grasping hold of it. I now understand it and I can retain it.
Like we all want to do it, like pack it in a box.
But what if it was more than that? What if it was just looking? What if the knowing was the looking?
Okay. And not label it anymore.
It's not limiting it as in now it's the truth.
Okay.
But what if it was unlimited, and then your knowledge could then grow just like everything else? If you look at anything living, what does it do? It grows.
Yeah. And it's always in abundant. It doesn't grow in limitation.
And it takes just what it needs.
Yeah.
And you will give yourself exactly what you need to grow in knowledge. If you're able to get beyond the limitations of solidifying knowledge into beliefs and just stay in the unknowing like you were born. When you were a child, you looked at the world with an open mind, and then you started to get taught that these are truths, that and that is truth.
Yeah.
That it was actually a narrative, it was a story, it wasn't the truth.
Yeah, it was out of the eyes of my parents who told me that is the truth, that is not true.
Yeah, it's because we all agreed. We all agreed on it, and that's what culture is.
Yeah.
That's what religion is.
Yeah.
And now we're moving out of that. And one of the fastest ways for us to do that is to express it through music. Because when I sing, I can express the maximum of my being. I can express the emotion. And if I have the ability in my own life to realize these things rather than just know them and understand them, then that realized vision can transport to the other. And they can get a taste of that, and then either they relate to it already, or it opens them to, and that's how the consciousness expands through music. That's why I think I've been guided to do this.
What is impressing me, like when I experience your kirtan, I've been at a lot of kirtans, and there's always like this energy where a lot of kirtanist stops. It's always like, oh, now it's getting like a little bit out of control, the energy, so every like normal kirtanist in Germany is stopping then. It's like, okay, no, it's enough. And your kirtan in Ubud, it was like really, you put us up and up and up, and it was really like, oh, there's a up. Oh, we can go further. And that really impressed me, because with you I had the feeling that you are not afraid of all the energy and of this chaos energy, but not this bad chaos, but it was a good chaos, this release yourself chaos. And it really impressed me, because normally I felt this fear of, oh, okay, no, it's a little bit too much, like, let's go down to earth, people. And with you it was like, oh, come on, we can go higher, like. How did you learn that? Or is it just natural for you, like what you told me about express yourself, it's limitless. Is it like that?
I think that the circles developed through you see, I didn't receive any training. I didn't really come from any particular guru or any particular religious background or role model in particular. I just took a bit of this and a bit of that and brought it with what I already had, which, you know, I love music and I love to get ecstatic. And I think that the circles, that urge to go wild and to go higher and higher and higher is not necessarily from me, it's from everybody. And I think the essence of that is that I wanted to, as a musician, I was looking to find some other way to express music, and that way for me was to give the music to the people. And this is a scary thing as a musician, because, you know, you're kind of, in a way, the group is leading.
Yes.
And even though I'm what you call the kirtan leader or the chanting leader, my way of doing that is to follow the energy.
Yes, that's what I felt.
So what you were feeling, you know, can we go higher, was also other people, you know, wanting to go higher.
Yeah.
And, you know, if enough of you do that, I'm going with you, you know. Because I also I love to get high, you know, because when we're high, we get the experience of being free from want. And it's wanting more than this, that is what disconnects us from the moment. And the moment is the only thing that is real in this physical world. So we're actually touching reality because we're self-fulfilled.
Why do we need sometimes these kind of moments, these ecstasy moments, to really feel us alive? Because there's so many people who are going for this, you know, bungee jumping or flying, or I don't know, doing tracks to feel alive. Why do we need that? Why can't we experience it right now? What do you think?
I think it's let's look into that together. If our environment that we're in and our external world is not reflecting back to us what we really want, and we are not looking at our internal world as to what's going on in there, we can be really confused.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
Like,
it's not fulfilling us anymore, nurturing us.
That's right. And so we're unfulfilled on the inside, and then when we look out, it's also unfulfilling. Quite often, it ends up in a cycle. You know, I get up, I go to work, I go same.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a cycle here, but it's of my choosing.
Yeah.
And it's not monotonous for me. It just gets better and better and better. And I love it more and more and more.
But you're doing the things that you actually love.
I'm doing the things that I love and that benefit me, and also giving something to the world as well, through the singing and sharing as best I can. But it can be confusing. And then when we get an experience that frees us from that, it might be going to a chanting circle, it might be bungee jumping, or it might be taking a pill, or drinking some alcohol or whatever. We get that feeling of what I call reality, where we experience ourselves beyond the constant looking into the future of wanting more. You know, I'm gonna be happy when I get this, or when I get there, or when this happens or when I win the lottery or whatever, without looking inside to seeing what's happening inside of me that's creating all this.
Yeah.
And then if we mistake those experiences for the actual for the essence of it, which is being fulfilled, and we think that experience gave me a sense of fulfillment, we can start to get addicted to it. It's like, I want to drink again.
Yeah.
Rather than the drinking showed me what I'm capable of, or the bungee jump showed me I got an experience of reality. I want that reality. How do I, how do I find that?
Yeah. And it pulled me into
everything.
the here now. It pulled me in that.
So if you listen to what I speak about in the chanting circle, I'm giving them that. I'm not giving them, but I'm facilitating a space where we can have that experience of freedom, of connectedness, of fulfillment. Yeah. But if you listen to the words I'm speaking, I'm always sharing with people that this is something that is coming from inside of you, and that we can find that in our lives when we find it inside of ourselves. And that means we need to look very carefully at our thoughts and be very mindful about how we treat ourselves, and be very mindful about what we put in to our being in the form of the environment we put ourselves in, the words we listen to, the media and the movies and the music that we listen to, and also the friends that we keep. And then of course the thoughts are very important. What kind of program, if we are programmable, which we are, what program have you got running? We need to look at that, and if it's not serving us, we need to dissolve it, remove it, and we need to put in a program that's of our choosing, not of what other people have chosen. What do you want? And sometimes we've never really stopped to ask that question. Could I be perfect? What do I really want? What's really valuable to me? What do I want to do? What am I feeling right now? These are the kind of questions that you could ask. And I would recommend, as a little bit of advice, something that's worked for me, is that before you go to bed, when you're the most programmable, don't watch a movie full of violence, but close your eyes and tell yourself all the things you want to hear, like I am enough, I am beautiful, I am. Just put I am in front of everything you want, and just forget about the limitations. There's no limitations in your imagination. And what it'll do is you'll go to bed with a good feeling. And when you feel good and you feel connected, the universe responds to that, because the entire universe, even though it appears to be out there and out of our control, actually our experience of it is only ourself. And you have to remember that. It's very clear if you just break the spell of thinking in terms of subject and object and come back to the simple fact that I'm creating everything inside of my own consciousness, and that the body is an instrument in which I detect and also respond to this larger self that I'm not aware of. I'm not able to be fully aware of it in the form of knowledge, but I can be aware of it in the form of looking, seeing. And what if, rather than to think that I'm seeing it, what if I was the seeing itself? if you feel a sense of wonderment in those words, that's reality. That's who we are. That's what knowledge is. Stay there. You don't need to grab hold of the scraps at the table. That's the feast in itself. It's only when we step out of that wonderment and questioning mind of exploring and move into the conscious mind, where we only can divide things into subject, object. I have retained this bit of information and therefore it's true. That is way more limited than the vast field of the inquiring mind. And if you are able to inquire into your unconscious thinking patterns of, I need this, I don't have enough, I want this, I want that. If you're able to inquire into those with that light, that inquiring mind, it will dissolve them, those unconscious thoughts, because it will see them for what they are. If you don't look at them with that inquiring mind, you won't see them for what they are, and you'll validate them as being real. Even though you may not react on them, you're allowing them to possess you.
That's true, yeah.
That's why that first mantra I heard, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam, all of the darkness of this human life is enlightened by the light that I am. I am the seeing. And that's the only truth that I can say about anything to do with me. I'm not Kevin. I'm not this body. I'm not all of the experiences that I've had, but I am the light of that consciousness that was there all the way through and will continue to be there after this is gone and you're gone. Because how do I know that? It's the only thing I know. I don't know anything else. And if we can't give up the trying to know that and understand that it's not a knowing in the sense of retaining and grasping at it. It's a knowing in the sense of seeing and being. Stepping out of the observer and observed and being the seer and the seen.
It's beautiful. It's the first interview that I'm starting to cry because it's touched me so deeply in my heart, and wow. I think it's the longest interview I even did. Wow.
Well, we stepped away from music, but actually this knowing that we're sharing, and I couldn't share with you unless you were also receptive to it, is the essence of my music, and why I feel this path is unfolded.
And that's when I hear your music, I'm starting to cry. The first time when I heard it, I was crying, and it touched me in so deep areas of my soul. And for me, it's when I'm uncertain or when I'm afraid, I'm hearing Asatoma, and it gives me a certainty. It gives me some grounding.
That's
like,
the knowing.
Yeah. It's like, because
that's all the knowing you need.
Yeah.
And it will be your savior. You know, it even I've been driving in my bus with my family, and I had this feeling I needed to slow down and swerve out, and then a car came on the wrong side of the road.
Wow.
From that same knowing, but because I was still, I was calm, I was connected.
Yeah.
And all I had was my feeling. But if my head was full of a soup of unconscious thought patterns that had been programmed into me, and I had, also validated by continuing to let them possess me and take me out of the moment, I wouldn't have heard that. I wouldn't be alive today, nor would my child or her mother. Yeah. And the experiences of that go on and on and on and on, right down to small things. And we can get to the point where we start to become the creator of heaven on earth. And that's what the world's waiting for. That's why the Mother in Earth invested so much in us. Because each one of us is the creator of universes. We just need to remember.
You think like when we could really understand that and really like see each other as connected with the nature, that we can actually shift this violence consciousness that is actually right now ruling the world into a more peaceful, more human life.
Yeah, it's the violence is not ruling the world. The peace is allowing the violence to be there.
I never saw it that way.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
that we
totally
can learn,
different mindset.
so that we can learn this lesson. Because we're about to make an evolutionary shift from small-mindedness to universal consciousness.
Yeah.
And I have 100% faith in myself as the universe. And we're doing what we need to do. I don't, even though I sometimes entertain the thought that I'm separate from the universe, I always come back, and I use mantra to help me come back to I am. And just like if I catch a virus, I don't fight it. I do what it tells me to do, go to bed, rest.
Yeah, drink
some vitamin, drink some orange juice and sit it out. Don't fight it, I go with it because it's my friend.
It's surrendering. That's what I'm actually learning. This,
so all the
especially in
people
Bali.
who are doing evil in the world, all the people who are controlling, they're my friends. And I'm happy that they're doing that and not me. Because I'm eternally grateful to be able to be Kevin James.
Yeah.
And I'm not killing people. And I'm not, I think it must be horrible to be in that role. But somehow that's, and I don't know why or how, but that's what the consciousness needs to go through in order to make this leap. And I think the earth has invested so much. I see the rubbish out there on the reef, and I feel the pain, but I also see how mothers give up their milk to the baby, and sometimes lose their hair and get stressed out and almost really suffer for the baby, but they're investing in the baby because the baby has the potential to continue on.
Yeah, that's what is most impressive for me, parents, how they're surrendering themselves to the kid and really like giving everything up that the kid is.
So the Mother Earth is our parent.
Yeah.
And she's invested in us. And if you are waking up, then you're like an older brother or an older sister, that then you can help the younger ones. It doesn't make you better. It just means you're older. It means you've probably come and gone here many times.
That's the most beautiful way of seeing, because I experience so often that people are like patting me like, oh yeah, you are so, you're not awake enough or something like that. And this...
Do I look at someone as asleep and see them as being less than me, or that they need to wake up? No, you don't. But if they're having a nightmare, I might stroke them and say, hey, everything's all right. And I think that's what my mantras have really turned to now. In the beginning, if you listen to my songs, it was like, we need to wake up, we need to wake up.
Yeah.
You know, it's time to wake up, it's time to wake up. But if you listen to my lyrics now, it's like, it's okay, everything's going to be okay, it's perfect, just stay asleep.
This perfect song
Yeah.
is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whisper healing songs and mantras that help people that at least don't have a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, nobody taught us that we are eternal. Nobody taught us that we can't be stained. We can't be broken. We can't be hurt.
I think Jesus tried to tell us that, but he didn't really succeed. Poor guy.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't say nobody, but they were nobodies. They
Yeah.
were able to get beyond.
They tried.
All the somebodies will tell you need to be like them, right?
Yeah, and we are praying to this poor guy who's at the at this crucifix, and he's like, "Come on, I was a cool dude." Could you remember like that?
Yeah. And now the poor, you know, the worst part of his life, you know, being on the cross is everywhere, plastered all in all the churches. You go into the church and it's like, oh God, there's blood, and you know that.
I know.
It's like, God, do you have to show that? I mean, this isn't.
And I don't think that was Jesus.
Trying to make us all guilty, or
Yes, yeah, of course they tried to do that. That's power. And this, I think Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and all of these dudes, they were really great
They were happy.
teachers. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were happy.
yeah.
And I think we should remember them like this. People with great power who really, had tried to help us.
The power was not power over.
No. It's
And
that's
so
a,
the power you feel in the circle
yeah.
is not power over.
No, it's power with each other.
It's our power.
Yes.
My greatest strength is the circle. It's not me, and in the sense of just being separate.
Yeah.
So why would I try and control anything?
Yeah.
I'm not controlling anything in the circle. And in fact, if you want to get something from me,
Yeah.
come and see me just before I chant, because
Mm.
I'll say yes to anything. Because if I try and control anything, I lose whatever comes through me
Mm.
during the circle.
Mm.
Only comes through a surrendered self. So I always do all the controlling
Mm.
in the beginning of the day, and then hours before the circle,
Mm.
I can't make decisions.
But isn't it interesting that we think like power is control? I think power is actually, I think when you are really connected, you are in power, but you're in power with yourself. And I think somebody who's in a good power, he can empower other people.
Yeah, because
No.
he's going with the energy. He's
Yes.
going with what they want.
Yeah.
That's the power of the circle. That everybody
Yes.
wants to lift it up. I'm
Yes.
just going with it.
Yes.
And so that's
And-
why you see people who are supposedly like in power now, but
Mhm.
actually they're not. It's
No.
just that we're allowing them because we couldn't be bothered doing that job.
Yeah.
That for them to be in power, they have to hide and lie
Yeah.
and cheat and mislead
Yeah.
people.
But
It's
that's
a lot
not
of
power.
work. It's a lot of work,
Yeah. Yes.
and it's always pushing against the
Yeah.
natural flow, which is freedom and support and cooperation.
Mhm.
That's the power,
Yes.
and that will always be restored,
Yeah.
because you can't keep pushing and pushing like that without eventually getting tired and having to. And we're going to watch the pendulum shift. Yeah, you know, like I sing about it.
Yeah.
Out of chaos and confusion, peace and order will be restored again. It has to be. Out of darkness comes a light,
Always.
and out of our weaknesses we find our strengths. When we look at all the atrocities that happen in the world, that's our weakness. How do we find our strength? Through our weaknesses. It's sad, and it appears unfair from an individual level, but from the perspective of being the eternal one, it's not the same story.
I don't have any questions anymore.
I think we should finish.
Wow, thank you so much.
Ich freue mich so sehr, dass du dir dieses Interview angeschaut hast. Ich hoffe, es konnte dich genauso berühren und genauso bewegen, wie es mich bewegt hat. Ich hatte auf jeden Fall unglaublich viel Spaß und ganz viele Aha-Erlebnisse bei diesem Interview. Und ich bin total gespannt, was du daraus mitgenommen hast. Kommentiere gerne hier unten und lass die anderen daran teilhaben, was für dich das größte Aha-Erlebnis war. Und vielleicht hast du ja auch noch irgendwas zu teilen zu genau diesem Thema. Like auch gerne dieses Video, abonniere meinen Kanal und teile das Video mit deinen Freunden. Ich würde mich so freuen, wenn du hier diesen Kanal supportest und dieses Interview mit deinen Freunden teilst, weil mich dieses Interview total bewegt hat. Danke, danke, danke dir fürs Zuschauen. Deine Silja.